Hi, everyone. So great to have you here. We are starting our Masterclass series for the month of November, all about how to have a purposeful holiday season. And each week, we're going to talk about a different topic. So we're starting off with anxiety and choosing to be present over perfect this holiday season. I know this season is filled with a lot of challenges, more so than other seasons, and especially where our world is right now. So this is very timely, very, very timely, with the perfect dose of loving yourself through the hard, loving yourself through the uncomfortable of what this season is going to bring up. So we're going to talk about that anxiety piece to kick it off. And if we haven't met yet, my name's Amanda Belke. And here's our agenda of what we're going to go through. We're going to talk about what anxiety is, how it shows up in our life, ways to live a meaningful life, and then time for questions at the end. So before we get into who I am, I want to first make sure that you're in the right space. So for today, we're going to be diving into that anxiety piece, and you're in the right space right now. If you've felt anxiety with family, with friends, felt that social anxiety, maybe you just felt like something was off, then you're in the right place. You're in the right place if you want to make the most out of this holiday season, if you want to make the most out of your life, if you're ambitious and intentional and want to get ahead of things before problems occur, you're also in the right place if you're a planner, if you think of all the things and want to set those intentions with your plans for this holiday season ahead of time, instead of backtracking, after you have those family get-togethers or friend get-togethers, and then you're like, oh, wait, we didn't do this or we didn't do that, and you didn't feel connected to anyone throughout the whole season of the holiday time frame. So you're also in the right place if you've struggled with anxiety, or if you think, I don't know, I got this weird feeling. I think maybe it's anxiety. I hear that word thrown around a lot, so I want to understand it better. If any of that rings true for you, you're in the right place, and you are absolutely in the right place if you love your family and your friends, and if they're a real important focus in your life and you want to make the most of your time with them, then you're in the right place. So let's dive in a little bit about who I am now that we just made sure that you're in the right place for today. And I'm a professional life coach and speaker. So a little bit about my story. So when I first graduated from college, I went on to work in the corporate world. My first job was at Target Corporate. I was there for years. I was managing multi-millions of dollars in business in their merchandising category. I went on to another company and I was working within buying, and I loved it for a time. And during that time when I didn't love it, that's when I realized what I was meant for. And that is when I got connected to the field of life coaching. And I did some of my training with CTI, so the Coaches Training Institute, and then also with Tony Robbins and his team at Robbins Research International. So yes, I have on here, I'm a fire walker. So if you've been to one of Tony Robbins' events, his UPW event specifically, that is where you walk across fire. And it's a powerful experience. I remember having all the tears streaming down my face. My other fellow coaches, there were, at the time that went to this, there were only 30 of us from around the world and going through this training together. And they were all at the other end to greet me and hug me. And the tears were just flowing. And it was such a powerful and impactful experience of recognizing what you're truly capable of in your life. and a couple other things I do. So I also do team developments for different companies. I will go in there and do team training development, no matter if it's human resources or if it's a sales team, whoever it is. Different corporate companies will invite me to come in and train their team. And so I have a lot of fun going in and speaking at different corporate companies as well. I mentioned a little bit about you're in the right place if you're a planner. Well, I love my daily planner. I am a planner enthusiast. I love spending my time every morning and just setting the intentions for the day, setting that tone and that vibration for the day and the energy that I need for that day, and being able to cross things off. I don't know about you guys, but that feeling feels so good when you can cross all those things off your list. And that's also where I do my daily gratitude. So that is a really important practice for me. And then for those of you that are Enneagram freaks, or maybe you are a personality addict, you love diving into that stuff. I'm an ENFJ, and I'm a type 9, very close to a type 2 in how I show up, but a little bit more type 9. So if there are any other ENFJs or type 9s or on the strengths finder, my top strengths are around empathy and connection. And when it comes to the disc, I am a high S on the disc. So those are some fun facts about me. And as I've had the opportunity to coach people in over 15 different countries and speak to many different corporate companies, I've learned a lot about anxiety and being able to teach people what really works to help you move past, maybe it's that social anxiety, maybe it's what even is anxiety, how is it showing up, how is it feeling in your world. So we're going to dive into that, because I know that that is something that either you've dealt with or someone really close to you has dealt with, because we are all connected to anxiety in some way, shape, or form. So we're going to dive in today and go a little bit further to get a better understanding. And what you're going to take away from today is you're going to have the 3 secrets to live a more meaningful and purposeful life during the holiday season, regardless if you have anxiety or not. You're going to have some tools to combat that anxiety and help you be more present and in the moment. And that's what you're going to take away, along with some really good other stuff. Okay, so anxiety overview. What is it? You know, the dictionary will describe it as a feeling of worry or nervousness or unease, and typically it's about an imminent event or something with an uncertain outcome, right? I bet many of you just reading that definition, you're like, well, I've felt that. I've felt that in so many different times that you can count more than on your 10 fingers. So I remember my first experience with anxiety. Before I had my experience, I never quite knew what people meant or how it felt when people had anxiety. I didn't quite get it. And people would say it to me all the time. I would have friends that would say, oh, I get anxiety, or I'm dealing with anxiety. And I thought, oh, that sucks, but I don't really get it. I don't really understand how debilitating it can be, until I had my own experience. So I still remember I was about 25 when I had my first experience with anxiety, and I had this really great extended weekend plan. I was gonna go see some really, really great friends of mine. All the girls were getting together, and they were some friends that I hadn't seen with all of us together, all 8 of us together, in a really long time. And so I was really excited, and yet I was starting to feel kind of nervous or worried about if I would be enough, if I would be accepted, if I would enjoy my time with them, if I would feel understood by them. I was worried about how they were going to react. Maybe time has changed since last time we saw each other. We don't really get together a lot. And I had all of these things racing through my head. I got anxiety around not being in my normal routine and being away from home for an extended amount of time. And I remember that anxiety was so much in that moment that I didn't want to go. I didn't want to go. Let me remind you, these were some of my closest friends, and I didn't even want to see them because of that worry and that nervousness and not being able to control the outcome. That got to me so bad. And I remember just crying before we went. And I remember there was one other person that I knew she had experienced anxiety before. So I told her about what I was feeling. And she told me that that's anxiety. And so she did something that made a world of a difference with just checking in with me periodically while we were gone and just asking, how are you feeling? How are you doing? And I knew what she really meant when she was asking that. So that was my very first experience with it. Maybe you have one that's similar. Maybe you get anxiety around certain groups of friends. Maybe you get anxiety around your family. Maybe it's social anxiety that is really debilitating for you, especially around the holidays. I remember a time where I didn't even stay home with my family on Christmas because I had anxiety about it. And let me tell you, I have the most loving, caring family. They are the best. I adore them. And yet, those were some of the experiences I had. Do I have those now? No, I don't have them like I used to. So I'm going to share with you some of the things that have helped me get to where I am now. Because if you're where I just described, with friends, with family, with coworkers, whoever it is, there's hope and there are tools and strategies you can use to get where I am today. And I'm going to share some of that with you. But before we get into some of those specific tools, I just want to share a little bit about what people think anxiety feels like. I love this diagram. It's this big thing of worry up top, the gray there. So the big thing of worry. And then what anxiety actually feels like. It's not just worrying about everything all the time. Anxiety actually feels like sweating a lot, second guessing yourself, muscle tension, trouble sleeping, chest pain, overthinking all the things, right? All the things. Increased heart rate, your mind and body refusing to cooperate no matter what you know is rational. That's what anxiety really, really feels like. So does anyone feel that? Have you experienced any of those? If you have, it's okay. It's so okay. And it's not the end of the world. And we're going to dive into some really practical tools that will help you. But before we get to that, what are the biggest causes of anxiety? So I've got 3 things on here. Can you guys figure it out? What are the 3 biggest causes of anxiety? Well, that first picture with all those scribbles and that person looking up at it just really confused, right? It's, what even is this? That's the uncertainty. Uncertainty in any situation can cause anxiety. So the more clear you are, the more clear the outcome is, the less anxiety there will be about that situation. So that second picture in the middle with the 2 people, with the question mark, with someone's thinking about something else and totally opposite of what the other one's thinking about. And then I like to think of those scribbles as being kind of that thing that no one talks about. That's the white elephant in the room. This is the perfect example of a lack of communication. So the second biggest cause of anxiety is the lack of communication. So it's uncertainty and it's the lack of clear communication with someone else. That is a huge cause of anxiety. And the third one says not here right now. What does that mean? That means not here right now, you're not being present. So anxiety happens when you're future tripping. Anxiety happens when you're focused on something in the future or something coming up. Anxiety doesn't happen when you're fully present in the moment and experiencing the moment as it is with all of your senses and enjoying that moment. Anxiety happens when you start to future trip. when you start to think about everything in the future and not knowing the outcome of everything. So that gives you a really good idea. So if you notice anxiety showing up, I guarantee it's about something in the future that is causing that anxiety. And a really great way to combat that is to get into the present moment, which we're going to talk a little bit more about. So, one of my favorite ways of living a more meaningful life is being present. And I think nature is a really beautiful way to get really present with everything. So, we know a little bit about anxiety. We know a little bit about how it shows up. You can write down maybe how it shows up for you and have your really clear example. And now we're going to talk about ways to become more present, which in turn helps you live a more meaningful life because you aren't letting anxiety rob you of it. And another thing to remember about anxiety is a fear. It's a fear that you will not be enough and that you will never be loved. Those are two fears that every human being in the entire world has. Those are the two biggest fears that everyone in the entire world has. The fear that they aren't enough and the fear that they will never be loved. So anxiety is really that fear of not being enough. And it's about that fear of not being enough for something or someone in the future. So that's a really practical way of thinking about anxiety and how it shows up for you. So it's when you experience it, it's why do I feel like I'm not enough right now? And in what situation do I feel like I'm not enough? Like, think about it. You know, a lot of people will get anxiety going into a job interview. Maybe they don't feel like they're enough for that job. Maybe they'll get anxiety before they go on a date. Maybe they don't feel like they're enough for that person. Maybe they get social anxiety at a group gathering of friends. Maybe they feel like they don't fit in or they're not enough for that group to fit in and feel connected. Maybe they get anxiety before meeting their significant other's parents for the first time. That's a feeling of a worry of not being enough. So when you think about anxiety, it's really this fear of not being enough for something in the future, something that's coming. So in order to connect back, to get more present, and to live that meaningful life without anxiety controlling how you show up, there's some different things, some different tools that we can use that I'm going to share with you here. So 5 different ways to live a present and meaningful life. You know, when you live a present life, it's not about doing all 5 of these things to be perfect, because we aren't perfect, nor were we meant to be perfect. Perfection is another word for anxiety, because think about the word perfect. It's everyone strives, not everyone, but many people strive for perfection. And perfection is driven by that fear of not being enough. And anxiety is really that side effect of not being enough. And anxiety is really perfection. You know, if you struggle with perfection, there's a little bit of anxiety in that area that you struggle for perfection in. So the idea here is to be present instead of perfect. It's about showing up and being connected and enjoying a meaningful and purposeful life by being present. So our gratitude practice, that's number 1. So what I mean by a gratitude practice is you have to write down on a daily basis what you're grateful for. It could be a gratitude jar where you write down what you're grateful for and why, and you put a little piece of paper in your gratitude jar. And then you take time, you know, whether it's once a week or once a month, where you go into that jar and you look at all the different things that you've been grateful for and why. The key to a gratitude practice is you must do it daily. You must be very specific about it, and you must add in the why. When you are dialed in so specific about your gratitude and you put why you are grateful, the reasoning behind it, that magnifies your feel of gratitude. You just start to feel it within your body. Your body tingles, it gets excited, it gets emotional sometimes. Sometimes you'll start to cry. You feel it so much. So you might hear the word gratitude practice or the phrase often, and you think, oh, gratitude doesn't do anything. But let me tell you, it is the most powerful tool in combating anxiety, because anxiety is simply a symptom, it's a side effect of fear. And it's scientifically proven that when you are in a state of gratitude, it is impossible to feel fear at the same time. Scientifically proven that when you are in that state of gratitude, you cannot feel fear. And if you do not feel fear, you won't have that side effect of anxiety. So you can get yourself out of that anxious cycle by dipping your feet into a deep gratitude practice. So it can be saying out loud what you're grateful for, or sharing it with someone, what you're grateful for and why, calling someone on the phone and letting them know you're grateful for them. Whatever it is for you, you get to decide what that looks like. I have a spot right in my daily planner where I write my gratitude in the morning and why I'm grateful for that. So you can have a journal, you can have a gratitude jar, you can simply call someone up each day and let them know that you're grateful for them and why. You can do whatever feels good to you. And the biggest thing to remember with this is when you feel anxiety, go to gratitude. Go to gratitude. It makes a massive difference. The second tool on here of ways to be more present, so not future tripping with that anxiety, but to be present and to live that meaningful life, is to set intentions. What does that even look like? So if I am going to Thanksgiving with my family, I'm going to set the intention that, hey, I want to connect with so-and-so because I haven't seen them in 6 months. Or maybe it's, hey, I know that my aunt, or maybe it's your mom, always is in the kitchen making Thanksgiving dinner. And you're going to spend some intentional time in there, keeping her company while she's doing that. Or maybe it's your brother that grills the turkey outside, and maybe you're going to set some intentional time with him outside, connecting with him during that time. You know, you get to choose what the intention is. It could be something as simple as, my intention for Thanksgiving is to have more fun. Or my intention for my friend's birthday, maybe you've got a friend's birthday coming up, is to laugh more or to smile more. It can be so simple and broad, or it can be dialed in and so specific. You get to choose. But the more intentions you have, the less worry you will have, because you are focused on your intention as you go into whatever that event is or whatever that gathering is. And therefore, what you focus on, you feel. So if you're focused on that intention, you're going to feel that. And when you're focused on that and feel that, there will be less space for anxiety to creep in, because you're going to be dialed in and focused on what you set as your intention for that thing. So same thing with a job interview. You can set an intention for that, and then you will feel less anxiety, because what you focus on, you feel, and where your energy and where your focus goes is where your energy flows. So when you feel it, with that intention setting, there will be less energy and space for that anxiety to show up. So the third one on here is vision boards and goal setting. So getting a really clear vision of who you want to be and how you want to show up in the world and what's important to you. That's the purpose of vision boards and goal setting. So when you think about vision boards, you got to do one about, who do you want to be? What's important to you about how you show up? You can get really specific with vision boards and do one for your job or do one for your family or your wedding or whatever it is. Or you can have it be more broad. This is my vision board for X year, or this is my vision board for the next 6 months. You can do whatever you want with that, with the time frame. And then the goal setting, getting crystal clear on what your priorities are and what you want to stand for as a human being and what you want to work towards and where you want to let your ambitious side shine through. So the fourth way to live a more present and meaningful life and stay connected to what's most important is to be so self-aware and connected to your personal development. The more you know about you, so the more you know about your personality assessment we talked about at the beginning of this, whether you're an Enneagram type 2, 9, 5, or 6, or whatever, you know, the more you know about those types of things about you and how you show up and what your pattern is and what your routine is and what you enjoy and what you don't enjoy, the more you will be aware of when your anxious thoughts, when your worry, when your nervousness of the uncertainty shows up, which creates this anxious response. And then the more you work on your personal development and have that awareness, the quicker you'll be able to bounce back. So it's not saying that anxiety is never going to show up if you do some of these things. The purpose is your bounce back rate, your come back home rate, come back to center is going to be significantly decreased the more personal development, self-awareness work you do, gratitude practice, intention setting, vision boards. You are going to have such a quick bounce back rate. So you aren't going to waste days suffering with the anxiety. You aren't going to waste weeks suffering about the anxiety of an uncertain outcome. It's going to be quicker. And then the last one on here is your morning routine and meditation. Meditation is such a beautiful tool to combat anxiety, and so is your morning routine, because meditation first thing in the morning clears your mind. It clears your mind and helps you then be able, after meditation, to focus on what matters most. And then with your morning routine, you can get yourself set up for success with things that make you feel good and make you feel energized. You know, your morning routine could be meditation, do a gratitude practice, set your intention for the day, review your goals, and then listen to a personal development YouTube video. That could be your morning routine. Very simple, right? And that can help you stay so focused on what your goals are for the day and what your intentions are for the day, but there won't be time or space for anxiety to show up because you're focusing on those intentions and what you're grateful for. So those are 5 tools that will really help you be present over perfect this holiday season, whether it's Thanksgiving, Christmas, or any other sort of get-togethers, or like I said, job interviews, or meeting people for the first time, or all the uncertainty around, you know, what's going to happen next in our world. There's a lot going on in our world right now. And these are all tools that you can use even outside of the holiday season. So then a couple common pitfalls to being present and to really focusing on being present and letting that guide you are these 3 things I want to take you through, because I don't want you to think that you're going to do this perfect, right? It's present over perfect. So it's not about doing those 5 tools and getting them just perfect. It's about being present in them. So these are some of the pitfalls that can come up on your journey to being more present. You might have some more self-judgment, or you might feel some judgment from other people. And when you feel that judgment from other people, that can really make you not want to keep going with that practice that you have, whether it's a gratitude practice or other of those tools that we mentioned before. So you might feel some judgment from yourself, like, oh, I should be getting this quicker, or why is this so hard for me? and it comes easy to everyone else. Or I feel like I should really have a quicker comeback time. It's not quite fast enough. Allow yourself grace during this practice of being more present. It's not about being perfect. Don't let the self-judgment come in. Recognize that you're doing the best you can with what you have and with what you know, and that everything you're doing is good. And sometimes you might feel some judgment from others as you do some of these practices. Maybe you tell your best friend that you started gratitude practice, and she's like, "What? What is that? Why would you waste your time with that?" Or maybe you told a coworker that you started meditating, and they're like, "Oh, sure, you're going to meditate too, because apparently that's the popular thing to do." There can be a lot of judgment that comes up from other people. But the thing to remember is the judgment you feel from them is really your self-judgment. There's something that you aren't believing. It's not about them. It's about you and how you feel. And it's about giving yourself grace whenever you feel judgment from someone else or self-judgment coming up. So another common pitfall is feeling alone or misunderstood when you're trying to focus on being present and doing any of those 5 tools that we just mentioned. So if you are, for instance, wanting to start a morning routine and you are doing a lot more self-development or personal development, and you're feeling so connected to yourself, you're really starting to understand yourself and your energy and your vibration of how you're showing up in the world, and you're doing more of your personality assessments, you will feel more connected to you, and that may also make you feel more disconnected from others. And that's okay, because when you are really connected to those other people, that's when you have less of an understanding about yourself. So the more you understand about yourself and do the work, the more you have to think about, okay, what role do I want this person to have in my life, this friend, this family member? Do I really feel connected to them anymore? And if not, find your new tribe. Find those people that like the things that you like. So maybe you are more connected to yourself and you're learning more, very much more self-aware. And as you're learning and growing, you realize different things that you like that you weren't doing before. Find those people that like those same things, and that will make you feel less alone and less misunderstood as you grow throughout your personal development journey. And then another way that being present over perfect can sometimes lead to a pitfall is when you are not making it a priority. When you're not making those tools, any of those 5 tools, a priority, then it's going to lead to a pitfall. It's going to lead to you not doing it and then blaming yourself and getting into this crappy self-judgment storm of why you're not good enough. And then it leads to this anxious feeling about, well, if you can't even do this, then you're not good enough for anyone else. And if I'm not good for anyone else, then I don't want to be around other people. And then you start to isolate. And the more you isolate, the more you get anxious about seeing people. So you see how that storm shows up and it really takes over? So the purpose of this is just to be aware of what these pitfalls are that can get in the way of you having your practice to be present instead of perfect and to have a more meaningful and purposeful life. So these are simply 3 things to be aware of, and to know that as they come up, they will come up. And as you are starting to feel that maybe you aren't very present in your day-to-day life, it's because of these 3 things are showing up in some way. And these 3 things are 3 things that are so common, and you are not alone if you're feeling them. Okay, so let's move on here to the 3 secrets to living a more purposeful life. So some of these things are things that we already talked about a little bit, but these truly are the 3 secrets to living a more purposeful life, even outside of the holiday season. So this quote is beautiful. It's, do not let what you cannot do interfere with what you can do. Most of the time, or quite often, we focus on all the things that we can't do or all the things that are going to go wrong instead of focusing on the good, instead of focusing on what we are capable of and the magnitude of that, and really challenging ourselves to see just how incredible we can be and what we're capable of doing with our lives and where our ambition can lead us in our life. So when it comes to these three secrets, it's all about set intentions for every single day, not just the events you go to, not just the holidays, not just so you stay out of that anxiety storm and that anxiety wheel or hamster wheel, but set intentions each day to be purposeful. We don't know how much time we have left in this world. We want to make a mark on this world. We want to leave our mark on this world. We want to know what that mark is that we want to leave. We want to be ambitious. We want to make the money that we want so that we can spend time with the people that matter most to us, so that we can spend time with our family and with our friends, and that we are doing work that we love and we're making an impact and leaving our mark in a way that feels good to us, so that we can have that special time with the people that matter most and create time for that. So the second secret is practice gratitude every day. So this one is not just for the holidays. It's not just for the holiday season. It is a daily practice. And if you really want to take this one to the next level, write 3 things every single day that you're grateful for and why. I know I talked about how important it is to get so incredibly specific, even more specific than you think possible, and to do it every day. And here's the real secret: do it at the beginning of the day. It puts you in a great mindset and a great attitude to have throughout your entire day. It makes you feel so good. And then the third secret is to openly communicate how you are feeling to the people you love. One of the biggest causes that we talked about with anxiety is that uncertainty around what people think, and that happens when we don't communicate. And that happens when we don't communicate how we feel, because we want to know how other people feel. And when that lack of communication happens, that leads to uncertainty as well. So when you openly communicate, you mitigate so many problems, so many issues, so many anxious feelings, so many feelings of not being enough. You mitigate that the more open you are about how you're feeling to the people you love, and you feel more connected with those people the more you do that. So these are truly the 3 biggest secrets to living a more purposeful life throughout the entire year. All right, and now we've got some time for questions. If anyone has some questions, I know there were some earlier before we even did this masterclass. I know there were some questions coming through in some of the social media posts, so there were some questions already answered there. So if you do have any questions, you can just pop them below, and we'll make sure that they all get answered, or you can email them over to hello@amandabelke.com, and we'll make sure they all get answered there as well. And just as a summary, so what did we learn today? So you learned how to battle your anxiety. You learned what anxiety is, how it shows up, what it feels like. You learned how to battle your anxiety. You learned that perfection is really just another word for anxiety. So when you're present over perfect, you're choosing presence over anxiety, because anxiety is just that perfection and that fear that you're not enough for something that's going to happen in the future. And then you also learn the 5 ways to live a more meaningful and purposeful life, especially over the holidays. So if you want to live a more meaningful life with less anxiety, trust me, I get it. I have been exactly where you are, and being so far on the other side of it, I can also help you work through these moments of anxiety so that you can truly enjoy your holidays, and so that you can really be present with the people you love most and create those moments this year that will be next year's memories. So if you want more help with that, if you want more help to battle your anxiety or to live a more purposeful life, especially over the holidays, let me know. These are some of the coaching clients I've worked with, and just a snippet of many of the wonderful things that they have shared about their experience working with me as their life coach. And I would love to work with you too. So I don't have very many openings left, but email me at hello@amandabelke.com and let me know why it's important for you to work with a life coach. And I'll take some time to connect with you to see, where your heart's at with it. And if your heart's really there, I'll see what we can do and see if we can open up any more spots for my private one-on-one coaching clients. So take some time to let me know why you want to have a more purposeful life. Why, maybe it's the anxiety piece. Let me know why you want to overcome that. And then we'll connect and we'll talk about it. And then I'll see what I can do and see if I can open up any of my private one-on-one coaching spots for you. So with that, here's my email. You can email me right there. And I hope you guys have the best holiday season. Our next one of this masterclass series for living a more meaningful and purposeful life over the holidays is going to be next week. So stay tuned. You can join the email family. There's a link to do that at www.amandabelke.com. So you can join the email family there, or you can join us over on Facebook or Instagram and just send me a message and let me know that you want to be a part of the email family, and we'll make sure you get added into that special group of people in good energy. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll see you next week for the second masterclass of this series. Talk to you soon.